At our engagement party, her mom whispered, "If you ever leave her, don't expect us to stay friends." I said, "Good thing I'm not marrying the family." She smiled. But that was the last whisper she tried that night. At our engagement party in Charleston, South Carolina, my fiance Lila and I were surrounded by friends and family, celebrating our upcoming wedding. The historic charm of the city added a timeless backdrop to our joyous occasion. As I mingled with guests, Lila's mother, Margaret, approached me. She leaned in close and whispered, "If you ever leave her, don't expect us to stay friends." Surprised, I replied, "Good thing I'm not marrying the family." She smiled, but that was the last whisper she tried that night. Little did I know, that exchange was just the beginning of a series of events that would test our relationships. Lila and I met during our college years at the University of Virginia. Our connection was immediate, and after graduation, we moved to Charleston, drawn by its historic beauty. Our relationship flourished, leading to a heartfelt proposal on the steps of the Charleston Library Society. Our engagement party was a grand affair, hosted at a historic mansion overlooking the Battery. The evening was filled with laughter and the warmth of loved ones. Margaret had been instrumental in organizing the event, ensuring every detail was perfect. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a penchant for control that I had only glimpsed before. Her whispered warning was unexpected, but I chose to brush it aside, attributing it to the emotional weight of the evening. In the weeks following the party, subtle tensions began to surface. Margaret's involvement in our wedding planning intensified. She had opinions on everything, from the choice of venue to the color of the napkins. While Lila appreciated her mother's input, I felt increasingly sidelined. One evening, as we sat poring over guest lists, Margaret made an offhand comment. "I've taken the liberty of inviting a few of my colleagues," she said, not looking up from her planner. "But, Margaret," I interjected, "we had agreed on a more intimate gathering." She looked at me, her smile not reaching her eyes. "It's just a few more people, dear. Surely you understand." Lila squeezed my hand under the table, a silent plea for patience. As the wedding day approached, Margaret's interventions became more pronounced. She questioned my choice of best man, critiqued the playlist we had curated, and even suggested altering the vows to include sentiments she deemed appropriate. The final straw came when she attempted to change the seating arrangement without consulting us. She had placed her friends and esteemed guests at the front, relegating my family to the periphery. I confronted her in the grand parlor of her Charleston home, the afternoon sun casting elongated shadows across the room. "Margaret, this is our wedding," I began, striving for calm. "Lila and I have made decisions together, and we need you to respect them." She set down her teacup with deliberate care, the porcelain clinking softly against the saucer. "I only want what's best for my daughter," she replied, her tone icy. "And so do I countered. But undermining our choices isn't the way to show it." The room was thick with unspoken words, the weight of our mutual resentment palpable. In the days that followed, Margaret distanced herself. She ceased her incessant calls and emails, her absence both a relief and a source of unease. Lila was caught in the crossfire, torn between her allegiance to me and her bond with her mother. The wedding proceeded as planned, a beautiful ceremony under the sprawling oaks of Middleton Place. Margaret attended, her demeanor cordial but distant. The rift between us was evident, a chasm that neither of us attempted to bridge. Married life brought its own set of challenges and joys. Lila and I built a life together, navigating the complexities of our relationship with love and understanding. Margaret remained a peripheral figure, her interactions with us formal and restrained. Reflecting on those events, I recognized the intricate dance of family dynamics and the delicate balance of asserting oneself without alienating loved ones. Margaret's actions, though overbearing, stemmed from a place of love and a desire to remain integral in her daughter's life. In the end, we all sought the same thing: connection, understanding, and a place within the evolving tapestry of our family. The silence between me and Margaret didn't last long. 3 months into our marriage, she started showing up unannounced. She'd bring over casseroles or freshly baked bread like it was just a friendly visit. But it wasn't about the food. It was never about the food. She'd inspect the house with her eyes like she was walking through a crime scene. "Still haven't put curtains on the living room windows," she said once, looking out toward the street. "People can see everything." Lila brushed it off, laughed it away, even apologized for her mother's behavior. But I saw it for what it was, Margaret trying to reassert control. Only this time, it was in my house. Then came the accidental slips. She called me by Lila's ex-boyfriend's name one evening. Out loud, while we were all sitting at the dinner table. "Oh, sorry," she said quickly, waving her hand like it was nothing. "I guess I just miss Ethan's cooking. He used to make this exact dish." Lila went silent. I stared at her, and Margaret just took another bite. That moment stuck in my chest. And the jabs didn't stop there. She started comparing me to every man Lila had ever dated, always favorably for them. Always subtle. Always cruel. But the twist came when we found out Lila was pregnant. We hadn't told anyone. Not yet. We wanted to be sure, wanted to enjoy it just between us for a few weeks. But one morning, after Lila left her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter, I saw the message. From Margaret. Saw the folic acid bottle in the bathroom. "You're pregnant, aren't you? Don't worry. I won't say a word. Just, please don't let him mess this up." That was the first time I raised my voice in front of Lila. She cried. She said her mom didn't mean it that way. I said I wasn't going to let her pretend this wasn't happening. And then, for the first time, I left the house and didn't come back until after midnight. I thought maybe that would be the climax. But no, that was just the climb. One evening, we had her parents over for dinner again. Just trying to keep the peace. Margaret brought over a binder. A literal binder. With tabs. "What's that?" I asked. She smiled. "Nursery design ideas. Thought I'd help. You know, since I've done it before." I looked at Lila. She looked down at her plate. I flipped through the pages. Names. Paint colors. Crib designs. Pediatricians. Even a birth plan. I set it down gently and excused myself. Didn't say a word. Went out to the back porch. I sat there for 2 hours while they laughed in the kitchen like everything was fine. A few days later, I got a call from Lila's dad, Ray. He never called. "She means well," he said. "She just doesn't know how to let go." "Ray, with all due respect, I didn't marry her." There was a pause. "I know," he said. "But she's not the type to let anyone forget she raised the bride." That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to stop. Not until I made it stop. I started keeping a record. Every comment. Every message. Every little thing she did. I wrote it down, saved screenshots, printed emails. I didn't tell Lila. Until one day, Margaret crossed the line so hard there was no coming back. She showed up at my job. Not even a call or a text. Just walked right in. Spoke to my boss like she owned the place. Told him she was checking in on her son-in-law's work ethic. He laughed it off. I didn't. She said she was just passing by. We were in downtown Charleston. Her house was 45 minutes away. There's no passing by on that route. That night, I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just pulled out the folder. Lila sat across from me, eyes wide. I laid out the messages, the screenshots, the visit logs, the stuff from work, the binder, the birth plan, the names she'd picked for our baby. She cried again. But not the same kind of tears. "I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered. I nodded. "You didn't want to know." We sat in silence. She called her mom that night and told her she needed space. Margaret didn't take it well. 2 days later, we found out she'd gone to our neighbors, crying, saying we were cutting her off. She made herself the victim. Claimed I was isolating Lila. Accused me of being dangerous. Said she feared for Lila's safety. And that was just the start of the storm. 2 weeks after Margaret cried to our neighbors, we got a visit from CPS. They showed up at our front door on a Saturday morning. A young woman and an older man. Both polite, both calm. But they were there for one reason. Ma'am, sir, we received an anonymous tip about possible domestic concerns and endangerment to a pregnant woman. Lila's face went pale. I stood frozen. They asked to come inside. We had nothing to hide, so we let them. They walked through the nursery in progress, glanced at the kitchen, sat with us in the living room. They asked questions, gentle but loaded. Had we had any physical arguments? Had I ever raised my voice or hand in anger? Had Lila ever felt unsafe? I looked at her. She looked at them. And said the truth. No, he's never laid a hand on me. He's not that man. They left after an hour. Gave us a business card. Told us it seemed like a false report, but they had to follow protocol. Apologized. But the damage was already done. That night, Lila broke down. Not just tears. Sobs. Shaking. She kept saying, she called them. She actually called them. I didn't need proof. It was her, without a doubt. We knew. The folic acid text, the neighbor gossip, the fake smiles. And now a report designed to ruin me. I was done playing fair. I called Ray the next morning. I need you to talk to her. Now. Before I do something none of us can walk back from. He was quiet. Then he said something I didn't expect. She's not the only one you should be watching. What does that mean? He sighed, low and tired. Lila hasn't told you everything. That's when I realized I wasn't just at war with Margaret. I was in the middle of something I didn't understand yet. I didn't press Ray. I waited. That night, after Lila had settled from another long crying spell, I asked her, "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away. Then whispered, "She paid my ex to talk to you. The Ethan thing. She told him to bring up old memories. She offered him $1,000 to say stuff that would mess with you. She was trying to scare you off." I sat there in complete silence. She promised me she wouldn't. But she did it anyway. And I let it slide, because I was scared you'd leave if you knew how far she was willing to go. And just like that, everything rewound in my mind. Ethan at that party, his odd questions about me, his sudden friendliness. At the time, I thought it was weird. Now, I knew. It was planted. "You should have told me." "I know," she said. "But how do you tell your husband that your mother tried to sabotage your relationship before the wedding? And that you pretended not to see it because you wanted both of them in your life?" I walked out of the room. I didn't come back to our bed that night. The next day, I met with a lawyer. Not for divorce. Not yet. But I wanted to know my rights. My protections. If she went to CPS once, she could do it again. If she bribed people before, who knows what next? I needed to document everything legally. When I came home, Lila was sitting at the kitchen table. There were 2 cups of coffee. One in front of her and one waiting for me. "You don't have to talk," she said. "But you need to hear this." She slid her phone across the table. It was open to a voice recording. I looked at her. "It's from this morning. Mom called." I pressed play. Margaret's voice crackled through the speaker, full of sugar-coated poison. "If he doesn't leave on his own, we can make it happen. I already spoke to someone who could file a complaint. There are ways, Lila. You just have to let me handle it." "Mom, stop. Sweetheart, you need someone who fits this family. Not someone dragging you down. You've always deserved more." Lila ended the call. The recording stopped. She looked up at me red-eyed. "I'm done pretending." I leaned back in the chair. Everything I thought I knew about family was crumbling around me. But the twist? Margaret didn't stop. She escalated. And this time, she didn't just come for me. She came for my job. Margaret sent a typed letter to my job's HR department. On paper. Signed it, concerned citizen. She accused me of emotional instability, said I had sudden outbursts, and was under investigation by Child Protective Services. She even included a printed screenshot of my public Facebook post from 2 years ago where I said something sarcastic about hating Mondays. It was laughable. But HR didn't laugh. They called me in. Sat me down. Said they were opening a review. I handed over the CPS card, explained the false report. Told them everything. They were sympathetic. Said they had to look into it anyway. That night, I stared at the ceiling until 4 a.m. Lila was asleep, but I wasn't. I had stayed quiet. I had tried to be the better person. I tried to give space. I tried talking, documenting, patience, love. She went after my job. So I made a plan. I had everything saved. The texts, the recording, the binder, the CPS visit, the HR complaint, even the voicemail where she called me a mistake in khakis. I compiled everything. Chronological, organized, labeled, and then I sent it to everyone. I sent it to Lila's entire family, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents. Every one of them got the file in their inbox with a message. You should know what Margaret has been doing. To me, to her daughter, to our marriage. This is not love. This is control. I sent it to her church's board, to her yoga group. I posted a redacted version on a Charleston community board with no names but clear signs. And then I sent the full version to the HOA president of her neighborhood, the one she fought with monthly over garden gnomes and mailbox paint. He'd love this. I told Ray before I hit send. He didn't stop me. She's needed this for years, he said. Maybe now she'll finally look in the damn mirror. When the fallout hit, it hit hard. Margaret lost 2 of her longtime social circle members who told her she was toxic. The church board asked her to take a sabbatical. The HOA gave her a formal warning for harassment and cited her for unsolicited contact with neighbors. But the real kicker? Lila's cousin, who was a therapist, texted us both privately and said she was starting a case study on narcissistic maternal enmeshment and asked if she could anonymously use some of the material. We said yes. For a moment, it looked like we won. But then came the crack I didn't expect. Lila. She pulled away. Not dramatically. Slowly. Quietly. She wasn't angry at me. She said she understood. But I think something inside her broke watching her mother burn. You scorched the earth, she said one night. And I know she deserved it. But I still loved her. I didn't want to bury her, I said. I wanted her to stop burying us. She nodded, but I could see the grief behind her eyes. 3 weeks later, she said she needed space. She moved in with a friend across town. Said she'd be back in a week. She didn't come back. Not after the baby came. Not after I painted the nursery alone. I see my daughter every weekend. We co-parent well. Polite, civil, distant. Lila loves her. I love her. But we don't speak about the fire anymore. Margaret lives alone now. Ray moved out quietly. I heard she still brings bread to neighbors like everything's normal. But the porch light's always off. As for me, I kept my job. Got a promotion, actually. My HR rep pulled me aside and said, "We've never seen someone document crazy that well." The truth is, I got my revenge. It was big, loud, public, but I lost my wife in the process. So maybe Margaret wasn't the only one who couldn't let go. Maybe I needed to win too badly. Maybe I forgot that sometimes burning the house down means no one gets to live there anymore. And now, every time I rock my daughter to sleep, I think about that whisper at the engagement party. If you ever leave her, don't expect us to stay friends. Well, I didn't leave. But they did. Every single one of them.